Hi, this is Alicia,
And this is Rafa.
and this is What Does It Feel Like to Remember 9/11? This is a tough one today.
Yeah. Um, what is it? How many years has it been? 20?
Yeah, yeah. I think this is 21, right? No, 20.
No, it's 20, 2001, September
Yeah.
11th, 2001.
Wow. Wow.
Do you,
So
I was going to ask you, do you remember where you were when you
I
heard
do,
about
I
it?
do. I worked at CLT meetings in Central Florida, and I had just gotten to work and we just started my day. And then someone was in our air department and said, "Oh my God, a plane has crashed into the towers, one of the towers." And I was like, "What?" And then we all just ran down to the air department to try to start watching what was going on. And then the second plane hit the second tower.
I was on I-4 coming back from an appointment headed to the office because it was like 9:45, I think,
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. And I heard it on the radio. And I think, like most Americans, I just thought it was like a small prop plane, like a crop duster type plane.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And by the time I got to the office, and because I worked in the SunTrust building on the 17th floor, at the appraiser's office. And by the time I got into the office, the second plane hit and it was huge. And we were all scrambling to a conference room to watch what was happening in terror. And we were all terrified. They sent us all home because of the risk. We were close to the federal building that was just on the other side of the highway, literally a block away.
Yes.
And the fact that we were in a tall building, they thought that there were other possible motives, because at that point, I guess the other one hit the Pentagon as well.
Right.
So we were all sent home and we were like thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And we just were glued to our TVs the entire evening, of course, after that.
The same. We were at the office and my son was at daycare. My son was 2 years old. And I just kept thinking, I need to get to my son because I don't know what's happening. And it just felt like it kept going on and on and on. Another thing, because I did work in the event and meeting industry, we had lots of people that were on planes. So we were trying to figure out who was where,
Right.
trying to
to
get
scramble.
contact with them to make sure that they weren't on a plane that had been hijacked.
Right.
Finally we got a hold of our staff and made sure everybody was okay. And then we could relax a little bit there. But it just was so scary. I just remember we were into the office. The CLT office was right across the street from the Orlando Executive Airport. So I remember thinking, we didn't know what was going on, and just that panic of I got to get home. I got to get home to my family. That's how I felt. And then just feeling sad.
Oh,
just
yeah.
so sad.
Yeah. It was, we don't have to get into detail. We know about it, right? The people jumping out of the windows and all of that.
Yeah.
And the despair and the uncertainty of who was accounted for, all of those things. It was just a pivotal moment in our history that has changed the entire world after that. Because think about it. I remember when we got back to the office, there was no flying for 3 days. It was when you're on the 17th floor of a building, there's no air traffic because you always, we would always see. My office faced it east, so we'd always see the flights coming in constantly, and then to have no airplanes, it was kind of like quarantine. The stillness, and it was kind of eerie not to have any traffic. I do know one thing for sure is that Bin Laden had family. There was family in Orange County because we knew who, we knew the tax record. We knew, who owns what property. It's public records. And I don't know who looked it up in our office, but there was a family with the last name Bin Laden, and they were escorted out of the country immediately amongst the no-fly period, within that 3-day window. And I think because they knew that they had nothing to do with the attacks, but the fact that they're associated with that name and family, out of safety, they just get them out of the country, get out. No
Right.
questions
No, I
asked,
agree. I
nothing.
mean, I wouldn't want to stay in a country after something like that happened. You can't.
Yeah, if you had like the Jewets attack Paris, for sure, you
Right,
imagine that.
right.
But but you know, one of the things I was thinking about is how much things have changed because of that moment. Remember, flying was so much easier.
Yes,
Just traveling. Period. You
yes.
didn't have the TSA that we had today, and I remember having discussions with friends that it was going to be. Kind of like regulated in like a police state, with air travel. Because before we used to be able to just hop on a plane with so much ease and not have to worry about all of the restrictions that we have now, and also the timing to get on an airplane.
Right,
But do you remember actually, and I love that about Orlando, is so easy, the Orlando airport, that you can actually wait at a gate when people arrived at their
right.
gate.
Yeah,
That
that
was it was
changed. You no
fun. It
longer.
was it,
Yes.
it was fun to meet someone at the gate, look up their flight. Oh, I'm going to meet them and surprise them at their gate,
Surprise them. Yeah. Yeah.
and you can't do that anymore at any
No.
airport. But
I mean, I guess you can kind of surprise them and hope you see them when they're walking off out of the exit in that sense. But yeah, not to get
it's
them
not
right
the
at the
same. It's
beginning.
not the
It's
same as
not.
it
I know
used to
they're like
be.
getting off the plane and there you are, kind of thing.
Right, right.
No, it is sad. It's definitely changed everything forever in travel and having to go through security and just not feeling. I mean, I just always felt very safe in America. I never felt unsafe. I just always felt protected.
Mm,
And to have that happen, you think, how did that happen? How could that happen?
right.
Very scary. And what a day. And it's a day I'll never forget. It's crazy too. Every year, I still work in the event industry, and the people that I was with that day, ironically, we always work together on 9/11. It's so weird. We're all in different areas of the industry.
Yeah.
On that day, we end up coming together on the same project. And working. So we're always thinking about it and remembering that day. But
Yeah. It's tough. So, have you seen that the documentary on Netflix about remembering 9/11? It's got interviews with Condoleezza Rice and George W. Bush on there. And I watched it this past week, and they kind of gave the play-by-play on how the president was informed. Of course, a lot of people were upset. They thought there was a delayed reaction, with him responding to it. Um, uh, he said that there was no mention of it in the morning briefing or anything like that. But I guess he was in Florida, and he was visiting kids in a school. They were going through a lesson, and his thing was that he didn't want to startle the children, like, oh my God, I gotta
right,
go because we're
right,
under attack, type of thing. So it was just one of those things that you're like watching it and you're like, why didn't someone else says, hey, Mr. President, we have to step away, I'm sorry, we have a little bit of a change in plans, I'm so sorry, or apologize to the class. Like, I start thinking in that direction. Like, there's always an excuse. Oh, your mom's on the phone, we got to go, you can't.
right, right,
You
right,
know,
right,
it makes
right,
me think in that way, because every minute, every second matters, right?
right.
But what shocked me is in watching that, and I think everyone should watch it. I think it's called Turning Point on Netflix. If you have a moment, no, that's the series. There's another one that I watched where it's actually just the testimonials and the play by play. Now, this one called Turning Point is like a mini series, but they talk about how he was whisked away in in Air Force One. And
Okay.
literally he was up there for like the entire day. But the frustrating part is that when they took him to Air Force One, you can't go back to the White House because that's going to be suspected to be under attack. So
Right.
literally, I think he was literally flying from like the Florida toward DC. Then I think he came down to like the Alabama, Louisiana. I can't remember exactly where it was, but the frustrating part, and I totally understand this, is that once they were up in the stratosphere, the communication system wasn't working properly.
Oh, wow.
Well,
That's so
remember
interesting.
GPS, cellular
Yeah.
communication, all
No,
of that
this
was
is
still
just
very
new.
not to where it's at today, right?
Right. Right.
So it was almost like they were on some kind of like information radio silence besides getting calls, but they couldn't like turn on the TV and watch the news or anything like that, which is George Bush was saying that was their natural thing to do because they didn't have the type of coverage on the internet like we do today, right? With
Right.
live streaming and stuff like that. So they get their information from the news because the news networks have cameras all over the world. They're constantly reporting everything. So sometimes it's quicker to get information through the news than through intelligence,
Right.
oddly enough, at that time. So to not be able to have access to any information, everyone else was in the know more so than the president at that point while he's flying up in that plane, which is kind of frightening. Just kind of
I,
frightening.
I can't even imagine what's going through his mind. Like, what do they know? Do they have spies that know where I am right now? I mean, it was just so unexpected. And the events, once they played out that day, it was like, boom, first tower, boom,
Mm-hmm.
second tower.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the Pentagon, right? The Pentagon was
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
And then we knew there was another plane in the air.
That was taken down. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were waiting. I mean,
Over
that was just,
Pennsylvania.
I can't even, I mean, it's taken a long time. I do want to watch that documentary. I think honestly, probably I wouldn't have watched a documentary. I can watch it now, but for the longest time, I don't think that I could have watched something like that. It's just too raw and real
Mm-hmm.
after that day.
I think we should. I think it's
Yeah,
important to watch that. Have you been to the memorial site?
no, I have not, but I am going to watch the documentary. I was thinking maybe,
Oh, that memorial site is serious. There's always a guard, an armed guard there,
Mhm.
and there's signage there to remind you that it is a place of silence.
Yes.
And basically, no shenanigans or tomfoolery will be tolerated, and you'll get checked or
How did
ejected.
you, I want to ask you, how did you feel? Because I think I've kind of avoided it. I've been to New York City several times and I could have
Um,
gone to see it, but I haven't because I feel that energy. I kind of am nervous
Oh,
about
well,
that.
a lot of that has subsided. And I
Okay.
think a lot has to do with the memorial has a lot of running water. You know, it's a
Okay.
fountain. They made it into a fountain. And I think there's something healing about the running water on
Yeah.
the site. That highlights the vacuum of where the buildings actually were. So that's in a way you look at it and you're like, my God, these were like the tallest buildings in the world at one point. My
Yeah.
God, this is like the financial capital of the world. And at the same time, you're like, wow, it's not that big at the
Right.
base when you look at the actual squares. It's
Right.
interesting. Um, but then you see the names on there and the way they light up at night. And then you'll see a flag inserted in the name or a flower. You'll always will find a flower and a white rose or a flower out there
Oh,
on the
wow.
names. So I can't imagine what it's like for someone that has lost someone in that tragedy, that their name is there. I didn't have experienced that loss. I'm very lucky in that sense, but um,
Especially because you have family in Connecticut.
right.
Growing up.
I do know someone that was supposed to get off at the subway exit there,
Yeah.
and they opted to call in, and they didn't. And isn't that crazy that by chance,
Yeah.
by afterthought, like they didn't go there, they could have been in that accident. But
When you a brush like that, you're so close. I mean, I've heard of people too, like that were going
yeah,
to board a plane, one of the planes, and didn't go that day or missed the flight. And then I just the relief, like, oh wow, that was close, you know?
yeah, yeah. But what I was going to get at was that I do get a sense of hope when I'm there, and not such the weight of loss. Because you do see the Freedom Tower there. I didn't have time to go in there, but I heard they had a spectacular exhibit that's very moving there. And you see the Oculus there, the architecture there. So I left with a sense of hope and resilience from that memorial because us as human beings, us as Americans, we are tenacious in a way that we will rebuild, we will heal.
Right. Right. Maybe the next time I go, I will visit. And thank you for sharing your experience with me. It does sound like a healing. It can be healing and
I
shows
would
our
go.
resilience as Americans.
And out of respect, you know, it's like going to see the veteran, you know, the memorial for the veterans in DC, that type of thing. There's like, or like going to see the Pearl Harbor. I've never been to, but I'd like to go see the memorial
Yeah.
in Pearl Harbor. You go in there with a silence, reflection, and respect, and hopefully a little wiser, because it makes you remember the things that we all go through.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, I definitely think it's one of those moments in American history we should never forget. We should always remember.
Absolutely. And, it's one of those things that out of tragedy, it united the country. From that tragedy, we do become united.
I definitely agree with you on that. I did feel like a sense of pride in being an American that day. I felt like we were all ready. We're ready to go, you know.
Yeah. But I do miss the travel. I do remember that, during the Clinton years, it was a lot more fun to travel.
Yeah,
I
I
do.
know it is. It's definitely challenging. It's not easy to travel today. The long lines, the long waits
Mhm.
to get through.
Sneaking marijuana cigarettes in your shampoo bottle.
Right? Like, how do we do that? How do we get that out?
But
So, we wanted to also share with you this week. This is the start of season 3, which
yes,
we're super excited about. We
right.
have some really great guests coming in the next several weeks. We're going to be talking about taking care of your aging parent.
Yes. Oh, I thought you were going to keep going.
And
Yes.
many other
I,
topics in the future.
we'll talk about taking, yes, but absolutely.
So I think we'll skip the recap today.
Out of respect. And
Out of
also, we
respect.
want to remember our loved ones that served during 9/11, our firefighters, our
Fighters.
first responders, all of them. Thank you so much for your heart, your dedication, and your service.